You mentioned some larger brands you work with. The number of sort of premises that you can have in a large organization, like is it a business unit can have one premise and one primary voice? I know you're working with individuals and creators, but out in the wild inside of a multifaceted brand, how do you think about the architecture of these arguments?
I worked for one of those brands, but when I joined HubSpot, they were 750 people and they had their sights on. They talked about the IPO all the time when I was there. And they were one of those early movers of it's the inbound marketing movement and methodology and all those things. And what they relied on there, I think to their credit when I was there, is they had this term. They'd written a book that was very advice centric. Their co-founders, Dharmesh and Brian, they had a kind of an emerging methodology. It was more like station to station, like what a marketer goes through, but they kind of put it to a visual, the inbound marketing methodology. And then, of course, they defined inbound itself. Set that aside for a moment. When I left and became a speaker, that was several jobs later, what you find is, a speech is the test of your mettle, because in a speech, it's the densest dose of your IP. You're making hopefully you are making a coherent argument to embrace a change, to embrace your perspective, to go with you, both in the speech and beyond it. So you subscribe, share, buy, etc. The speech is really, when I develop something with somebody, we are focused on a speech in some way, even if you're not giving a speech, because the speech is the test and it's also the development tool. Because if you can't do that, you really don't have much to say. The reason I bring that up is, as a person for my own speaking business, what you find is, I don't just need a nice sounding term and a single visual that sort of just summarizes the natural progression. It's like every consultant has a proprietary method. It's like step 1 needs analysis. I'm like, okay, that's not really proprietary. You are forced as a speaker for your product, which is a keynote speech, to figure out, do I have all the elements here? So what I do is I imagine who is the CEO of that organization. If they were giving a keynote to the absolute ideal audience for that organization, what is going in the keynote? And a lot of people make the mistake of going, I'm going to be a futurist. That keynote is going to be about, I'm the CEO of Salesforce. I'm going to talk about the future of X or whatever. And I'm going, no, let's say it's the ultimate user conference. It's not a bunch of industry analysts. That would become the development tool for your premise at that level. And I actually don't think that you can summarize or condense this idea of storytelling, that's kind of broadly what we're talking about, a premise for your story, into a PDF deck that disseminates around the company. One of the biggest pet peeves I have is a lot of us want to have an organizational story, which matters as a lens that unites, but then who is carrying the story to market? If your marketers are not storytellers, what does it matter that your homepage copy sounds nice? That you have this beautiful deck that was really expensive, paying a consultant to produce for you. And that's why I'm like, the pendulum has swung way too far away from the individual. And we're talking about media companies, except for the crown jewel of media companies, which is who works there. And what are they saying and what are they like? Like, we can't learn story. We have to be storytellers. And so that's why when a big brand comes to me and I just lay it all out, I'm like, this doesn't work if what you want is a logo to talk about your stuff. I'm like, who is doing the storytelling? That matters today. The who behind the content. As our friend Ann Handley loves to say, the from line matters more than the subject line. That is the perfect encapsulation of everything I've been talking about. What makes the from matter? Who is the from? And more importantly, how do we give them a supersuit of intellectual property, of IP? The premise is the heads-up display of your suit. It's how you see everything and how you operate your suit. And then you have a framework and signature stories and terminology and methodology. And then you bring that all out into market and you can compete with people who, might have a bigger budget than you or be giant space aliens, as this metaphor tips off the rails.
So as you're talking, I'm thinking a lot about like subject matter experts within any of these brands.
That's who I'd work with. I think all I just said to you was I shy away from this stuff if it's a massive behemoth brand going, I want a distinct premise. I'm like, you're probably not in that business anymore. You are going to be outside in. You are going to be in the triage, arbitrage, outspend, whatever. I don't think distinctiveness happens among P&G brands.